The older I get, man, the less I'm worried about what happens to me, the more I'm worried about how I respond. So I learned at 23, man, like you can think you got it all together and you can think you're going in the right direction, but like it can be gone like that. And you know, here's something that I really, really learned. No matter what you're going through, somebody's going through something worse. And I started to see that around me because there's somebody in the hospital right now. They're praying for the opportunity that I have right now. Like they wish they had the opportunity to walk. They wish they had the opportunity to talk. And you talk about realizing who's in your life for the right reasons and who wants to be in your life and what a real friend looks like. The perspective you gain, man. Listen, whatever, like God doesn't make mistakes. And something in your life is going to happen that you don't understand and you know it's going to be a struggle, but how are you going to face it? How are you going to respond to it? And I found when you respond with positivity and hard work and gratitude, you find another avenue of success.
Field Talk Podcast is brought to you by Rhoback. Pretty much my entire closet is Rhoback. And part of the reason why is it's the best fit and the best feel, but also because I promise you, every time I either open up Rhoback's Instagram page or go to the website, rhoback.com, there's a new product drop. Of course, the signature hoodies, you've probably seen me wearing one if you have ever seen me on ESPN. T-shirts, polos, wearing one of those as we speak right now. Joggers, shorts, hats. Again, by the time that you are hearing this, there could be 10 new products. If you want to get your dog a handkerchief to wear around its neck, if you want to have a new head cover for your driver, I could use one of those because I chucked my driver with the head cover into a pond recently. I don't want to talk about it. Head on over to rhoback.com, that's rhoback.com, and enter my name, Field, F-I-E-L-D, for a 20% off promo for your first purchase. If you're a young fan of college football, you probably know the name David Pollack is one of the most influential voices in college football media. If you're a little bit of an older guy like me, you remember David Pollack as one of the most dominant defensive players in college football history. No, not just at Georgia, not just in the SEC, ever. David Pollack was just that good. But a very significant life event played a part in his career looking a whole lot different than everybody expected. So in today's Field Talk podcast, it's an honor to be joined by David Pollack, somebody who I consider not just one of the best college football voices, but also one of the best people that I've ever had the chance to be around, who has an infectious spirit for life. And I hope you enjoy today's interview with David Pollack on the Field Talk podcast. All right, it's great to be joined now by David Pollack, and I've known you for a long time. We've had a lot of conversations about football, life, fantasy football, but I found something out recently that kind of surprised me. You're from New Jersey?
I was born in New Jersey, homie, okay. So I'm not from New Jersey. Now, Daddy did tell me growing up, he was like, hey, man, you're going to be a Scarlet Knight. I'm like, Daddy, what the heck is a Scarlet Knight? Because we had lived in the South for a long time. Obviously, I moved to the South when I was 4, so no, but y'all have no clue, Pete and Will, y'all have no clue that I text Field so much during the football season for fantasy football trades and updates. It's ridiculous. It's insane how much I text him.
We're going to talk about that in just a little bit because you do have an unbridled passion for fantasy football that people like I can really appreciate. And shout out to Pete and Will also here on the Rhoback team helping out with the pod today. So you are technically born in New Jersey, but when I think of you, I think of Georgia, a state that you still call home, and of course, where you end up playing college football. But before you get there, what was life like for David Pollack as a youngster? Like, at what point was it clear that you weren't just going to be a football player, but an unbelievable football player that would go on to have a ton of success?
Well, I think this would surprise people. First, this part won't. Like, I knew I loved football Field when I was 4. When we moved to the South and my brother started football, he's 2 years older than me. At 6 years old, I smashed everything on the sideline. Like, I literally was trying to be my brother. My brother Jason is 2 years older than me. I just knew, man, I had a passion for football that was real. And listen, I was built bigger and I was physical. I wasn't scared to get hit. But here's what I'll say, just like anything else, like 8th grade, I'll never forget watching the World Cup. and this is how dedicated and serious I was about football. I was watching the Soccer World Cup when Brady Chastain ripped off their shirt. And I remember during that broadcast, they said the competitors stopped drinking carbonation because it hurts their conditioning. Field, I'm 14 years old. This is the last time I touched a carbonated beverage.
Is that right?
I knew, oh, bro, I knew so I had a passion. Now, with that passion doesn't mean it was always easy because I'm a sophomore in high school. I still think I'm going to the NFL. I still think I'll make my dreams come true. But what happens, don't play varsity as a sophomore. Don't play JV as a sophomore, kind of in between. And go to my coach and I'm like, hey, dude, I quit, man. Football sucks as it is. It's hard. It's hot. It's sweaty. I'm like, I have no desire to continue to do this. And he was like, dude, just come work out with me. Eddie Shaddix is his name. I always mention his name because of how much he means to me. Eddie Shaddix is like, come work out. We'll do curls. We'll get pretty for the girls. Like, just don't think about football. And guess what, bro? I hit puberty. I grew 6 inches and I gained 60 pounds. And you want to talk about football being fun when you're the hammer and not the nail anymore, and you're gaining 60 pounds. Like, so then my football career, I took a giant leap and started to get offers. But man, I had a dream and I was sacrificing for it, and it got tough, and I quit like a lot of people do. But thank God I had a coach that believed in me before I believed in me.
So were you one of those kids that the minute you got were you just waiting on the Georgia offer, and the minute you got it, I'm going to be a Bulldog? Or was it one where, some people, when they get an offer from an in-state school, particularly the in-state school that sort of moves the needle the most in college football, are like, I got to explore the rest of the world. How did your recruiting process play out for you?
I still wanted to see the rest of the world. I've never traveled. I never got on an airplane. And so my senior year, I got a visit to Ohio State and flew to Ohio State. And first time me, my mom, and my daddy were on an airplane together. And so that was kind of cool. But the white stuff on the ground, I was like, Mama, what's that? And they're like, that's snow. I'm like, that sucks. I don't want any part of that. Fast forward, you get drafted by the Bengals. Woo! Yeah. God has a sense of humor. But I think that I wanted to take trips. But the ace in the hole for me, Field, I've had one girlfriend in my life, and her name's Lindsay. And her name was Lindsay Hopkins at the time, but now it's Lindsay Pollack. And she was 45 minutes down the road. So it didn't matter where I was at. Like, I was going to be close to my baby doll and close to my family so they could come watch. So the in-state won because it was so convenient to be close. And obviously Georgia and what they accomplished was no sneeze.
Am I mistaken? Is Lindsay the one responsible for the world's largest Christmas tree arriving at the Pollack house every year? Because you guys always do it huge at the holiday season.
16 feet, baby. You by God, if you don't like Christmas, I don't trust you. Like,
I'm coming over for Christmas this year.
If you don't celebrate, if you don't listen to Christmas music, by the way, I start in October, and I know that's fine. That might be a little bit much for people, but don't criticize me because I love it. There is no better time of year than Christmas, man.
Hey, I started seeing Halloween candy, and I'm up in Connecticut in July. So, I'm not against the people that are aggressive with their holiday decisions, as long as it includes things like good Christmas music, or in the case of Halloween, the good Reese's pumpkins that are available in advance of Halloween. All right. So you have this process, you get recruited, of course. Places that are at the top of the heap are coming after you. You mentioned Ohio State. You end up at Georgia. And Georgia obviously has been in a stretch in recent years where they've been, at this high level. But it's not like Georgia was ever a slouch. So being one of the greatest players in Georgia history takes a lot to say. I mean, we're talking about rare air right there. Number one picks and Heisman Trophy winners and, NFL Hall of Famers have come from Georgia. But at what point did you realize when you get to Georgia that I'm not just good enough to be a Bulldog, but good enough to go down eventually as one of the all-time greats?
I always believed in myself. And that's one thing I think I tell my kids all the time, man, like, confidence will get you a long way. And I think that I was too far in the confidence realm. I was in the arrogance / jerk range. But I had a lot of confidence in myself. And when I went to Georgia, I thought I was going to leave and go to the NFL after 3 years and just go about my career. But here's the thing too, Field. Like, again, I go to Georgia as a fullback. I sign as a fullback. Everybody gets hurt at defensive tackle. So my freshman year, I moved to defensive tackle. I played defensive tackle. Well, I'll never forget playing Tennessee. And the Volunteers had Albert Haynesworth and John Henderson at defensive tackle. Yeah. And I was like, one of these are not like the other. I don't belong. And so you have that self-doubt. And then my sophomore year, everybody goes to the draft. Charles Grant, Josh Millard, Bruce Adrien. Like, we had 4 guys that went to the went to the draft and got drafted. And so we had no defensive end. So I moved to defensive end in the spring, never played defensive end in my life. And moved to defensive end, and I had a coach that was unbelievable that believed in me right off the bat and started working with me. And man, it clicked. And my sophomore year, I got the privilege to start and be an All-American. And I really knew I broke the sack record at Georgia as a sophomore, and I knew like, dude, I can do this and I can be good. And I knew I had to continue to work on my crafts, and my goals didn't change. But listen, man, it's about being great where you're at. And I was a freshman All-American at defensive tackle, and that was fun. But they moved me to defensive end, and I didn't pout and I didn't mope, and I just worked. And I found, man, the people that work the hardest usually get ahead. And so it wasn't conventional. It wasn't just plug and play, and you're a superstar. I experienced the homesick and moving positions and having some doubt, but in the end, doing the work gave me the confidence to succeed.
So I think people that recall your playing career at Georgia probably can agree with me that amongst the words that come to mind from watching you play every single Saturday was intensity or passion. Do you think that, because I do believe you talk about how hard work is essential. I also feel like passion and intensity, sort of care, want to, desire can result in success. Do you think that some of the passion that you played with was a trait you were born with, or is that something that can be learned? Are there mild-mannered kids who become intense college football players because they have the right influence somewhere along the way in their life?
I have absolutely seen people change their stripes later in life. And I thought it was something that you had to be born with. And because of that, I was a really bad leader at times. And I tried to lead people the way that I was. And you need to be energetic and you need to be passionate, specifically with my son, Nicholas. And I've kind of learned, like, dude, everybody's different. But I do think you can learn passion. But here's the thing, man. Like, if you love what you do, and this is so cliche and it's so stupid, and people are going to be like, yeah, what an awesome saying. If you love what you do, it's not work. Like, dude, I love showing up to the facility. I remember people complaining like, we got inside drill, we got this. And I'm like, what else are you going to do today? Like, what do you have to do? Go to class? Class sucks. Like, play video games? Yes, I'm all about it, but we don't need to play for 12 hours straight. Like, so I just, and just like with my kids, man, one of the things I take the biggest pride in, I got a rising sophomore at North Oconee where I coach football now, and a rising freshman girl that I coach her basketball team up there. Like, the most proudful thing, I just love that my kids love it. And when they love it, they work. So all you parents out there that are grinders and want to grind your kids and make them do this and make them do that, just facilitate loving the game. And if you facilitate loving the game, the work will be a part of it that they're okay with, and they'll get used to it. It won't be easy, but over time they'll become really used to it, and it won't bother them. But man, they got to have the love. And I had the love that was very different than a lot of people. And but I'll say this, hard work is contagious, and hardworking people rub off on people that aren't as hardworking. And I would say that sometimes it can go the opposite way too. But you have to be willing to be different, to be bold, to believe in yourself, and to work hard. But man, you've got to enjoy it. You got to take the victories every day that you find and celebrate them.
Well, that passion that you talked about, that joy, I certainly can see in your work now as a college football analyst and one of the faces of college football. But before college football became your profession, at least in the media realm, you enter the NFL. You're the 17th overall pick by the Bengals. You mentioned that earlier. And listen, I think most people who know you kind of know your story. You're a player that felt destined for greatness for a long time in the NFL. And you have something really traumatic happen to you during your second season in the league. How did an injury that ultimately contributed to the end of your football career maybe shape you in a way that I have to imagine when it took place was the furthest thing from your mind?
Yeah, I don't think you look at it and you're like, man, yes. Like, yes, adversity, bring it on. Because my dream was to play in the NFL, and I made that dream come true. But my dream was to be a Hall of Famer. And I told my baby doll, like, we ain't going to Hawaii until I make a Pro Bowl. Like, we'll just forget it. Like, it's not happening. And one play, one hit, it's gone. And man, what's your life about now? And the older I get, man, the less I'm worried about what happens to me, the more I'm worried about how I respond. And so I learned, man, I had a choice. Like, I could mope, I could pout. I had people that on my team that got drafted. One of my teammates from Georgia got drafted, and he was defensive rookie of the year and threw it away because of drugs. And my wife was like, "Oh, I hate that that he threw it away and we got it taken away. And I was like, that's not the way we look at it. Like we got to learn to take the joy. And I really learned that everything daily. How do I make daily goals? How do I make my day successful today? Something I do to this day with goal setting, and we can get into that something like, because it's a big deal in my life and it's a reason why I've been successful. But I think that adversity is coming. If you're not in a storm, if you're not in a trial, bad news for you guys, one's coming, 100%. And if you've lived long enough, you know it. And so I learned at 23, man, like you can think you got it all together and you can think you're going in the right direction, but like it can be gone like that. And here's something that I really, really learned. No matter what you're going through, somebody's going through something worse. And I started to see that around me because there's somebody in the hospital right now. They're praying for the opportunity that I have right now. Like they wish they had the opportunity to walk. They wish they had the opportunity to talk. And so I think I started to realize that I got humbled quickly, man. And you talk about realizing who's in your life for the right reasons and who wants to be in your life and what a real friend looks like. Man, you talk about knowing I made the right decision with a wife. My wife married a football NFL player, a first-round draft pick. You know what she thought was coming? Millions of dollars, a nice life. You know what she was? My flipping nurse, year 2, cleaning my scars, cleaning my halo site, like wiping the crud off every day, giving me sponge baths, which were fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I ain't going to complain with that one. But no, like the perspective you gain, man. Listen, whatever, like God doesn't make mistakes. And something in your life is going to happen that you don't understand and it's going to be a struggle, but how are you going to face it? How are you going to respond to it? And I found when you respond with positivity and hard work and gratitude, you find another avenue of success. And sometimes it might be, sometimes it's a better avenue. And it's going to look different. It might feel different, but I don't think God makes mistakes and I don't think he wastes circumstances.
So I don't want anybody to experience what you experience amongst football players. You and I both agree football is the greatest sport on earth, and I consider it a privilege to have played the sport for as long as I did, even at a much less successful and glorious level than you did. But I do find your story to be a reminder that adversity is relatable, right? You could be at the top of the mountain, you could be at the bottom of the heap, and you could face some stuff in your life that challenges you. After you endure this really, really traumatic injury, you mentioned goal setting, and you probably had to set new goals. At what point did you think that maybe you could take your God-given football talents on the field and turn them into a career talking about it off the field?
Never in a million years would anyone who knew me or in college or ever thought the way I looked at the media would have ever thought that I would have been in the media. The dumb questions, the not knowing what's going on, they used to drive me absolutely batshiznick crazy. And, I was watching when I was in my halo and my neck brace. I had a 2-year period where I couldn't do much. And I watched Mike and Mike in the morning almost every single day. And I didn't sleep a lot. And I watched so much sports. And I started watching Georgia football. And obviously I was a Georgia football fan from playing. And I'm watching Kirk Herbstreit talk on television. I'm like, dude, shut up. Like, Georgia can still, if they didn't play for an SEC championship, they can still play in the Natty. And I'm arguing at the screen. And I'll never forget, I was like, dude, I could do that. Like, if I can't play football again, I think I could do that. I'll never forget, I called my agent. I was like, hey, bud, like, I want to try this. Like, I think I could do this. And I went to a radio station in Atlanta and started to work and started to grow. And listen, it wasn't glamorous. And you go from, our salaries, unfortunately, are public and people know what we make. And you go from being the 17th pick and making millions of dollars to making $1,200 a month for my first gig. That's humbling. Okay. And it was hard to get excited for $1,200. I'm not going to lie. But I was like, what's inside here, bro? Like, you are a freshman in college again. Like, if you want to get, and my goal, I told my media agent right away, I was like, I want to do College Game Day. And they're like, okay, well, everyone wants to do College Game Day. I was like, yeah, I know. I don't really care. And so, like, what does it now take for me to get there? And I had to learn how to, dude, defensive players are not smart. Okay. Like, we are.
You guys just react, right?
See ball, get ball.
Yeah.
You're really fast. You're really athletic. You're physical. Okay. Go get the guy with the ball. It's great. Like, no plays, very few plays, like, and you can still be successful. So, Field, it was hard. It was very hard. Like, to to learn to speak about other teams and to learn different teams and names. And I remember practicing in front of the mirror. And the biggest thing I did was start to watch and learn. And whatever profession you want to be great at, and whatever you want to pursue as a career, there are no excuses anymore. Like, you've got access to every bit of information anybody has. There's a podcast about it. Welcome to the Field Talk Podcast. Like, right? Like, we got anything you want in any form of a podcast now to be an expert. And so I started watching these guys that I liked, and why do I like them? Why do I not like this guy? And what do I want to be about? And started to build what I thought I was, and started to grow and get better, and just got some, I got some huge blessings. I didn't deserve to be on College Game Day Field. Like, no part of me deserved that. Like, I literally was put on there early in my career after I've been on TV for like 2 or 3 years. And it's just like, kind of go figure it out. And what I didn't know was more than I did know about television. But man, it's just so thankful and blessed to have that opportunity.
All right, so I want to talk about something that I thought was one of the first things I noticed, and somebody else important in my life noticed about you when she started to watch you on TV more and more and more. I'm referring to my wife, so I promise I'll pay this off here in a second.
Okay.
But you mentioned goal setting and how it's something that it sounds like is a fundamental part to your life. So what is it about goal setting that has been so profound for you in, it sounds like every chapter, not just your playing career, your media career, but every facet of your life?
Well, here's the thing. If you don't goal set, you're doing it wrong. And I'm not trying to be negative to anybody, but alignment affects assignment. There is nobody that's ever going to go out and play golf and go, I'm just going to kind of swing. Like, you have to get lined up. Steph Curry's not like throwing the ball over his head. Like, you're not going to throw darts at a board over there like this, right? Like, so I have to get aligned in a direction, and I have to figure out, what are my important things that I'm going to pursue and that I'm going to chase? Like, then now I can put steps together. And here's the thing. It's small steps. It's not big steps. Like, I'll never forget when I moved to defensive end, I was getting my arse whipped, Field. Like, I was getting toe up from the flow up. Like, I got George Foster, first round pick, John Stinchcomb, first round pick. Like, at defensive end, never played before. And that's who I'm going for. That's who I'm going against. Like, that is not fun. I lost a lot, but man, that spring, once it ended, like, I'm like, dude, I'm going to master my hands. I'm going to go to the sleds and I'm going to hit them. I'm going to do 25 taps. Now I'm going to work on coming out of my hips. I'm going to work on a short step. I'm going to do 50 short steps. Like, I'll never forget. They tell you all these different things to work on, Field, and it's like drinking through a fire hose. And I was like, you know what? Get off, pad level hands, all this stuff. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to master my first step. Because if I play with a great base, I got a chance. I mastered my first step. Now I'm going to master my next step. So, like, to this day, Sunday, I wrote down my goals. And my goals for this week, I'm going to read a chapter of my Bible every single day when I get up. That is a non-negotiable. It's not going to, like, I'm not getting my big fat butt out of bed until I've read. Like, it's not like I might do it. I'm not going to bed until I do it. I'm going to walk an hour every single day this week. It's a non-negotiable. That's what I'm going to do. Like, I have several of those. I have like 4 of those. I'm going to do 200 push-ups, 200 sit-ups. Like, it's not like this might happen, Field. This is going to happen before I go to bed. There are no excuses. There are no ifs. There are no ands. There are no buts. And those are just things that I think you have to take the time. I'm not an overly organized person, so I have to make myself sit down on Sundays and be like, what's important to you? I talk to my wife, like, what's a goal that I need to incorporate with the kids this week? Like, where am I not hitting the mark with parenting? Where am I not hitting the mark with you? Like, how do I pursue something? And I just think we've got to be selfish in the morning in our lives so we can be selfless the rest of the day. And so you've got to get done what you want to get done in the morning. And then you can go about your day and your grind, and you can love on your kids and do all the different things you want to do. But you've got to have alignment that affects assignment that is going to affect your purpose.
So it's no surprise hearing this right now. I got, like, the hairs on my arms sticking up. It's no surprise why your words affect so many people. I was mentioning, one of the first things that I noticed, one of the first times that I watched you in your television role, not as David Pollack, the 3-time All-American at University of Georgia and all-time sack leader for this incredible program. is your passion. And I mentioned that there was somebody else in my life, my wife, and we were watching, at least the first time I recall us watching you on TV together. I'm going to guess it might have been Game Day, 3 hours on Saturday, a show that a lot of college football fans watch. There are two things she noticed. First of all, and I have no shame to admit this, she go, that guy's handsome, which I can agree with as well. Second of all, she says, he loves college football, huh? And you can just tell. And you and I have
That's
probably,
cool.
yeah, we've probably had people that have tried to coach us, right, in the world of TV. You've probably had some tips along the way, maybe some numbers fed your way. But ultimately, what you know best is college football, playing the game and loving the game. And that, I think, has always stood out to people that watch you. And I know that we're so fortunate when you take a step back and think about being a college football or an NFL or fantasy football analyst to have the job that we have. I also know that college football is a long season. And there are some days, we're humans, right, that you have it more than you don't. How were you able to, every time the camera's on, experience that joy? Because I'm speaking from personal experience right now. I'll be the first to tell you, like, I'm sure I know there are shows that I've been better on than others because it's hard to just crank it up every single day. How do you feel like you were able to do that?
I think it's something that everybody finds the different areas that helps them produce the most and be the best. But man, it's just it goes back to high school. It goes back to college. Like, where are you at? Like, I'm right here. I'm going to do it excellent. Like, whatever I'm into, I'm going to do it well. Like, everything you do matters. Like, how you clean the house, how you do the dishes. And I know that sounds stupid, man, but like, why would you not do everything? And the Bible says, work hardly unto the Lord, like run the race, like keep working and doing everything you can with a purpose and with excellence. And I think, listen, I love college football. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like I love it. And that's something that's always, football's been in my DNA, like I told you, since I was 4 years old. And when football went away from football, like from playing, I was like, oh gosh, like I got to have this in my life in some way, shape, or form. And I found a way to keep talking about football. And here's the thing, like I learned so many things from Coach Corso, but like, because I prided myself so much on being the guy that watches tape and really being studied and having a great opinion. He's like, kid, it's entertainment. Like, it's supposed to be fun. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like I never took a note to the desk. I don't take notes to the desk. I want to listen and be a part of it and interact and be back and forth. And it's just something that's so great and so fun. But yeah, you do miss family time, right? Like I remember being on Saturday game day, getting updates on my kid's youth league football game, my son's youth league football game. And that sucks. Like, but again, we're always going to give up. We're always going to give up some things, and some things are going to be hard. But if we always do everything with excellence, and we work as hard as we can and be great where we're at, we will have a chance to succeed and be great.
I know we're a little low on time here, so I could ask you a million questions, but I'll try to be selective here. You talked about this, sort of figuring out along the way on College Game Day and sort of the things that were required and the things that maybe you had efforted too much, right? Like maybe not being so dependent upon tape study and maybe focusing more on the entertainment value. Was there a point, though, you mentioned you were 2 or 3 years into your TV career when you get on College Game Day, this big signature show. Was there a point where you felt like you belonged? Did that point change the way that the rest of your time on College Game Day went?
Yeah, I think once you realize, like, I think once you realize that you're kind of in the same world, this is what you do, you get used to it. I think the biggest thing is you really get used to your teammates because, like, I always, whatever show I'm on, I want to be a great teammate. In order to be a great teammate, I got to bring my energy, I got to bring my effort, and if my teammate messes up a little bit, like, I want to be there to pick him up. And if you kind of misstep and you say something like, I want to make sure that I'm paying attention enough to fix the name, and like just so I think once you learn, like once I learned Desmond and then learned Reese and learned Kirk and listen, it was a rotating cavalcade. I mean, you go from you got Tom Rinaldi and you got Woj and you got Jen Latta, and it's just it was a traveling circus that was changing always a lot, and then Pat came in and like. So all of that stuff, was always changing. So I think your role changes and who you are. But like the one thing I took great pride in is whatever. And again, your wife said it. You said like whatever segment I'm on, like be a great teammate, do your job to the best of your ability. You're not always going to be right, But what I settled in on, like, I really wanted to teach people the game of football. And I wanted to teach them things when they watched the game, like they went, I see it. Like I saw, oh, that's awesome. I remember seeing that this morning. I remember hearing that guy talk about those things, and it was awesome. Like, cool, I get to see it here. And so I think you 100% get more comfortable. You feel out your role. You feel out what your job is on the show. And I'll be honest, like my job was always changing, and there's some people there that didn't enjoy my work as much, and that's okay. Like all I could control was I could do a great job when I got given an opportunity, and I was not a guy that always had the opportunities. But when I get on the camera, it's my job to control how well I do when I get my opportunities, and which means I got to be ready, which means I got to be ready for whatever situation, whatever it is. And for me, that meant studying my tail off and being ready for every topic and understanding the game of college football.
Well, it certainly was a high level for a long time. And I know that the media career for David Pollack is far from over. You got your own podcast now. And I'd imagine a lot more future TV endeavors. You got this new studio that you're doing this show out of right now. I can't wait to see that one in action. I got to ask you one last thing. And you and I hope, have a lot of things in common. Our passion for football, but our passion for fantasy football. Got to be near the top. Tell me where the love of fantasy football started, and tell me who's the most gratifying person to whoop the booty of in your league each year.
Oh, there's a lot of people. It's gratifying to whip everybody's butt. It started right when I retired from the NFL. We started playing fantasy football, and it was Braylon Edwards, Derek Anderson, and Kellen Winslow Jr. years. Like that big year was the first year I played, won the league with those three guys, by the way, traded basically. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, the Browns are cooking. I want everybody on that offense. So instead of doing the you pick a great player from each team, I was like, I want all of them because they're cooking and they're killing it. So I've definitely learned along the way, but guys, it's so much fun, man. My son is it's a family league. So mama, daddy, mother-in-law, father-in-law, my uncle, my son, my nephew, my daughter, it's just cool. We've kind of grown it and take a lot of pride in it, talk a lot of trash. My son every year has 9 of his buddies over and we do a live draft field. We get wings and we just it's a good way to socially get them to interact. And I just love that. I love that you can do stuff like that and help your kids socially, like find things that they can communicate with other kids. And especially my son, he's a little more quiet and reserved, harder to get him to do more things socially all the time. So fantasy football has been that for us. And it's just so much fun, man. It's fun. It changes everything about the way you watch a game. And you are selfish as piss. I am selfish because I am cheering for a certain player, not a certain team. And it's very weird, but I'm like, that was a horrible throw. Touchdown. What? My guy was open. Throw it to him next time.
It's so true in so many ways. And I know that fantasy football is just a game, and it played for money in a lot of cases, played for pride in some cases. But I tell people all the time, my favorite part about fantasy football truly is it's a community. I play in a lot of leagues. I play in a league with my high school buddies. I play in a league with my college buddies. I play in a league with the guys that I live in the same town as now, right? Yeah, I mean, it's way too many. But I got a lot of circles of life that I am able to connect with through fantasy football that, I'm 37. I got 2 young children right now. It's harder for me to get back home as much as I might like to. Or I got college buddies that live in different countries, much less different parts of the U.S., and it's harder for them to be around as much. And yet, for 18 weeks a year, we get connected over fantasy football. It is truly special. David Pollack, you are the man. I cannot thank you enough for joining us here on the Field Talk podcast today. I'm also ready to go run through a brick wall, so keep up the coaching for a long time because I got to imagine a lot of wins and a lot of lessons are in your future. But I appreciate you, my friend.
Always great to talk to you. Appreciate you, my man.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed that conversation with David Pollack. And I'm serious. I think I'm about to actually run through my office door right now. I mentioned this in talking to David, but it's so clear. Everything he does with intention and with passion. It's one of the reasons why I believe he's one of the most important voices in all of college football media and somebody that I know people will be hearing from for a long, long time. A huge thanks to Roback, RHOBACK.com for their support and making the Field Talk podcast happen. A reminder, if you haven't already, head over to Roback.com and enter the promo code FIELD for 20% off your first order. And a reminder to rate and subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your shows. Again, those ratings, helpful for us. Reviews, also helpful. Say whatever is on your mind. We like positive reviews, but we also like honesty. We'll be back again sometime soon here on the Field Talk podcast with more great guests. Until then, we'll talk to you soon.